I think the game comes down to this. It's like the Chiefs are not in their current form a Super Bowl contender. That's an 0-2 football team. So it feels good to go into Arrowhead, get that win, but certainly not, the measuring stick. I think for Kansas City, it was more of a measuring stick. I think for the Eagles, they're going to play better teams than Kansas City, and they're a better football team right now. And it showed down the stretch. Now here's what plays into, my analysis of Kansas City not being a very good football team right now is they're doing very un-Kansas City-like things. Like Travis Kelce drops, the one on the goal line's huge, right? Ends up with a Makuba pick, and Josh Simmons, who evidently runs 18 miles an hour, saves a touchdown. But that's the huge swing in the game. And, in the first half, when I'm watching the Chiefs offense, it really was a one-man show. It was all Mahomes. It was all Mahomes and bad rush lanes, or Mahomes and a pump fake and a scramble. He really is. Listen, you want to add to the list of things that Kansas City did uncharacteristically poorly. I mean, he missed Thornton on, what should have been a touchdown. And the, Eagles secondary, I think the last one that actually ended up a touchdown there in cover 3, and Blankenship jumps the deep over and, leaves the post wide open. So there's things that the Eagles secondary needs to work out. But Patrick Mahomes certainly expects to throw the football better in crunch time. And that would have taken some time off would have left some time on the clock so that maybe they weren't in such a shitty position at the end of the football game. People are going to talk about the tush push. And, I know the whole world's sick of the tush push. It is what it is at this point. I mean, like, if I were a fan of another team, I'd probably be tired of it. But the Eagles have mastered it, and it doesn't help when they did get away with a couple of false starts. So just on the record, I'm not going to ignore that in this analysis. I mean, like, the game could go differently if they're calling those according to the rules, but they didn't in this scenario. And so, it just ends up, in a situation where I think the most interesting thing in this chess match between the two defensive coordinators, Spags and Fangio, the Italian mafia out there, Fangio brought more pressure. Spags pressured more than half the time, like pretty much the whole day. But Fangio brought more pressure. And I think Mahomes at this stage in his career, not stage because this isn't a stage that he can't get out of, that's been brought on by old age or decline or something like that. It's just the fact that he's throwing the ball to fucking nobody outside. At this stage, you can blitz Patrick Mahomes, because the thing about Patrick Mahomes is like, he gets greedy. And in a game like this, if you pressure him, he's looking for the home run ball. He's not looking for the check down. He's not looking for the hot. And so, as the Chiefs go down the road, I'm going to be really interested to see how people call games against them. It's amazing to me, watch the Chiefs, who have quite possibly the best football player on the planet, if we're weighting quarterback into the equation. I mean, Mahomes is probably that guy. And they don't really have anybody to throw to outside. And they can only score 17 points on a good Eagles defense, but not the defense they faced in the playoffs or in the Super Bowl last year. And then the 1 p.m. slate, I'm watching, Browning throw to the Monstars outside, basically all-world receivers, and they can move the ball. They can score the football. But it's amazing to me that, like, somebody as good as Patrick Mahomes with an offensive coordinator like Andy Reid can't take advantage of a matchup, can't put together mistake-free football. I'm, if you're a Chiefs fan, you're probably very disappointed in the way you start this season. And I think the first 2 games are marred by very un-Chiefs-like things. Starting with Xavier Worthy running into Travis Kelce on mesh week 1, and you lose your vertical threat. Now it's got to be Thornton. So I want to shout out a couple guys on the Eagles defense. I mean, Nolan Smith made a huge play on 4th down. I mean, he is an absolute dog. He's one of my favorite players on the Eagles because he sets edges. He can rush the passer. He's going to be their BG from here on out. Kind of the do everything edge that might not wow you with 12, 13 sacks a season. He might not make Pro Bowls, but that guy can play football. And his big play showed up. I mean, we're going to pay attention to Makuba pick, but I also thought, like, very uncharacteristic to look at the Chiefs and being so desperate to go right out of the half like that. But, you feel good about Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid with the ball in their hands on 4th down. They just could not convert. in that situation. And so yeah, I I don't know what to take away from this game. I think the takeaway is neither of these teams are they're both works in progress. But I think the Eagles have a higher ceiling, and I'll stick to that. I think losing Goddard for this game hurt them, but I also am watching an offense that's kind of working through some identity issues, and certainly like Landon Dickerson didn't play great inside. I wonder if he's 100% healthy. And defensively, Adoree Jackson's still out there. And the pass rush is one where you are going to have to manufacture some pass rush at times a little bit more. So, and for the Chiefs, obviously, they're banged up. Hollywood Brown left the game for a moment at one point. I'm saying, like, what the fuck are they going to do now? So, they're definitely working through some things. Also, Fulton didn't play, or he played and left the game. So a secondary that's it's certainly not perfect. Losing a guy like that definitely matters. But I don't know. The one encouraging thing for the Eagles is we talk about like this chess match that Fangio's got to play is, Makuba. There was one point in the game where he knocked down a mesh on, I think, 3rd and short. It was a money down, and it's Hollywood Brown. It's their best receiver, and Makuba's on him and sorts through the trash pretty well. Brown dips under Bond at that point, which gives Makuba a chance. But the point is like when you're looking for an arrangement of defensive backs that works for you, maybe this guy can play the slot in a pinch. That's basically what he's doing on that play. Much the same way Cooper DeJean came to the rescue last year, played the slot for the Eagles and made everything go. Maybe this year in a pinch, Makuba can play nickel for them. We will see. But for the Chiefs, I mean, you look at their schedule coming up: Giants, Ravens, Jaguars, Lions, and then they get the Raiders, who they always kind of have a hard time with. I don't want to say always, but so for the Chiefs, it's a new world out there where nothing's easy. And they gotta move the ball down the field 3 plays at a time. I saw a really interesting statistic today where it was Chiefs offensive rankings during the Bieniemy era, and now the last 2 years with Nagy. And they're pretty middle of the road the last 2 years. As bad as they've looked, they're like 15th in offense over the last 2 years, and they're habitually a top 5 group. Now, I understand that talent factors into that, but one thing that they said about Eric Bieniemy was the details were always right, because he was that dude that kind of got in people's shit when they weren't on the details. And, I don't want to put it all on Nagy. Obviously, the personnel matters, but I think you probably do miss a guy like that. So big win for the Eagles. None of them are easy in the NFL, and to go into Arrowhead, no matter what the Chiefs look like in that moment, it's a big win.